Have you ever spent months, maybe even years, studying a language, drilling grammar rules, memorizing endless vocabulary lists, completing workbook after workbook, only to freeze up completely when you actually try to have a real conversation? You're not alone. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The way most of us were taught to learn languages is fundamentally broken. It's like trying to learn how to ride a bike by reading the physics of balance and momentum. You might understand the theory perfectly, but the moment you sit on that seat, you're going to fall. Now, what if I told you that the single biggest obstacle between you and fluency isn't your memory, your age, or even the amount of time you have available? What if the real problem is something far more fundamental, a mental shift so simple that once you understand it, language learning transforms from an exhausting uphill battle into something that feels almost natural? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely change how you approach learning any language, whether it's Spanish, Mandarin, or Arabic. Think about this for a moment. When you were a child learning your first language, did anyone hand you a grammar textbook? Did you sit down with flashcards to memorize verb conjugations? Of course not. Yet somehow, you mastered one of the most complex cognitive tasks a human being can accomplish. You learned to speak, to understand nuance, to tell jokes, to express emotions, all without a single formal lesson. So what changed? Why does learning a second language as an adult feel like climbing Mount Everest, while your first language felt like breathing? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The answer lies in how we approach the learning process itself. Most traditional language learning methods treat your brain like a hard drive that needs to be loaded with data. Vocabulary files here, grammar rules there, pronunciation guides in another folder. But your brain doesn't work like a computer. It's not designed to store isolated bits of information. Instead, it's a pattern recognition machine that craves context, connection, and meaning. When you try to force-feed it random words and abstract rules, it rebels. It gets bored. It shuts down. Has this ever happened to you? You're sitting there with your language app, dutifully repeating phrases like, "the cat is on the table," or "I would like to buy a newspaper." And you think to yourself, when am I ever going to use this? Your brain is asking the same question, and because it can't find a meaningful answer, it refuses to store that information in long-term memory. This is why you forget everything you studied just days later. But there's another way. A way that works with your brain's natural learning mechanisms instead of against them. A mental shift that turns confusion from your enemy into your greatest teacher and transforms the frustration of not understanding into the very fuel that drives your progress. This isn't about studying harder or longer. It's about studying smarter by understanding how your mind actually acquires language. And once you make this shift, everything changes when you realize that language learning isn't a sprint. It's a journey of building familiarity, one small exposure at a time. This is where most people make a critical decision that determines whether they'll succeed or quit in frustration. They believe that learning requires massive time investments, hours of daily study, complete immersion in a foreign country. But the hidden truth is far more elegant and accessible than that. Your brain doesn't need you to be a hero. It just needs you to show up consistently, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Think about it this way. When you water a plant, you don't drown it with 10 liters all at once and expect it to thrive. You give it a little water every single day, and over time, something remarkable happens. The roots grow deeper, the leaves unfold, and one day you look at it and realize it's transformed into something beautiful. Language acquisition works exactly the same way. The impact isn't in the dramatic gestures, it's in the quiet consistency of daily practice, where your mind gets to chew on the same material multiple times without the pressure of immediate perfection. Here's what this actually looks like behind the scenes of successful language learners. They're not geniuses with photographic memories. They've simply discovered that speaking isn't the starting point, it's the consequence of something deeper. It's what happens when you've exposed yourself to the rhythm, the melody, the patterns of a language so many times that the words begin to slip out naturally, almost without permission. You don't force it, you let it emerge, and this mindset shift changes everything because you stop measuring your progress by how much you can say and start measuring it by how much you're absorbing. Now, I want to go even deeper into this because there's a specific transformation that happens when you structure your learning in a particular way. Imagine dedicating just 15 minutes of your day to a ritual that works with your brain's natural architecture instead of against it. Not a chaotic 15 minutes where you're bouncing between apps and random vocabulary lists, but a focused, deliberate practice that follows how your mind actually processes and retains language. This isn't some mystical formula. It's neural engineering applied to learning. You start by priming your brain, giving it a moment to shift from whatever you were doing before into learning mode. Then you expose yourself to a short passage, maybe 30 seconds, of text with audio, without any pressure to understand everything. You're not there to prove anything. You're simply observing, letting the sounds and patterns wash over you. Next, you synchronize what you're reading with what you're hearing, training your perception to connect written symbols with spoken sounds. Then comes the part that feels uncomfortable, but is absolutely crucial. You listen without looking, forcing your brain to rely solely on auditory processing, the way you do in real conversations. After that, you repeat what you heard, not aiming for perfection, but for intention, for connection with the sounds. Finally, you summarize what you understood in a single sentence and mark your progress, giving your brain that satisfying sense of completion it craves. This entire sequence creates a compound effect over time. Each repetition isn't just review, it's reinforcement at a deeper level. Your brain begins recognizing patterns you didn't consciously notice. Revelations happen in quiet moments, when suddenly a phrase you've heard 10 times finally clicks into place, and you understand not just the words, but the feeling behind them. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for the shift," if this approach resonates with you, because what comes next is where everything starts to accelerate. What most people don't realize is that the real transformation happens in a space that feels uncomfortable at first. The space between hearing and speaking. There's this collective belief, reinforced by countless language courses and apps, that you need to start producing sentences immediately, that somehow speaking badly from day one is better than not speaking at all. But this mindset completely ignores how your brain actually processes and internalizes a new language. Before you can produce anything meaningful, you need to train your perception. You need to teach your ears to distinguish between sound and noise, to recognize the rhythm and musicality that makes each language unique. Think about learning a musical instrument. Nobody hands you a guitar and expects you to perform a concert the next day. First, you listen. You absorb how the instrument sounds when played well. You tune it. You understand its range. You let your fingers explore without the pressure of perfection. The same principle applies here, but somewhere along the journey of modern education, we forgot this fundamental truth. We started treating language learning like data entry instead of skill development. But your brain isn't waiting for you to memorize rules. It's waiting for patterns to emerge from repeated exposure, for connections to form organically through observation and imitation. If this resonates with you, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you here for more content like this. This is exactly how babies become fluent speakers, and there's profound wisdom hidden in their approach. They don't analyze grammar. They don't worry about making mistakes. They exist in this beautiful state of chaos where sounds float around them, and slowly, magically, those sounds start making sense. They imitate without self-consciousness. They repeat without embarrassment. And their brains, unburdened by the need to be perfect, make rapid progress because they're focused on one thing: presence, being fully engaged with the language in each moment, not worrying about tomorrow's fluency or yesterday's mistakes. Now, here's where the real revelation happens. The moment you shift from chasing perfection to embracing presence, everything accelerates. Your brain has this incredible feature. It loves completed cycles. It craves that sense of closure, that feeling of, I did it. This is why marking your progress, even with something as simple as a check mark on a calendar, creates such powerful momentum behind the scenes. You're not just tracking days, you're building identity. Each mark says, I'm someone who shows up, I'm someone who follows through. And over time, those small decisions compound into something far bigger than you initially imagined. After 30 days of this practice, something shifts that you won't fully notice at first. You don't wake up magically fluent, speaking like a native. That's not how transformation works in real life. Instead, you become inevitable. You become someone for whom fluency is no longer a question of if, but when. The impact of this shift in identity is enormous because you're no longer fighting against your own doubt. You're simply walking a path you know leads somewhere meaningful, taking one step after another, trusting the process even when immediate results aren't visible. And then one day, without warning, you'll be watching a video or listening to a podcast in your target language, and you'll realize you're understanding it. Not translating it word by word in your head, but actually comprehending the meaning directly. You'll smile because you'll remember all those awkward 15-minute sessions, all those moments of confusion, all those times you thought, this isn't working. But it was working, quietly, persistently, building neural pathways that would one day light up effortlessly. Drop a comment saying presence over perfection if you're ready to trust this journey, because what comes next ties everything together in a way that might surprise you. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for staying present through this entire conversation. That alone tells me something important about you. You're not just looking for quick fixes or magic formulas. You're willing to sit with ideas, to absorb them, to let them settle in your mind the same way we've been talking about absorbing language. And that quality, that willingness to be fully present, is what separates people who transform their lives from people who just consume content and move on. This channel exists because I believe learning should feel different. It should feel like discovery, not drudgery, like curiosity, not obligation. And if what we explored today resonated with you, if it shifted something in how you think about language learning or even learning in general, I'd love for you to subscribe and become part of this community. There's so much more we're going to unpack together about how your mind works, how to learn faster, how to think clearer, and honestly, how to just be more intentional with the incredible tool sitting between your ears. Leave a comment saying, I stayed until the end, so I know you're here, so I know this message landed with you. It genuinely matters because it helps me understand who's paying attention and what kind of content serves you best. And if you found value in this, go ahead and hit that like button. It's a small gesture, but it creates momentum that allows these ideas to reach more people who need them. Before you go, there's a video right here that dives even deeper into how your brain creates lasting change. It complements everything we talked about today perfectly. Click and continue with me over there. I think you're going to find it just as valuable as this one. I'll see you in the next video.